Get down here, Merc.
So I cannot express how much I love Final Fantasy VII. It's literally my favorite game of all time, and apparently it's Batman's too.
I think it's a lot of people's favorite game. Final Fantasy VII was, still one of the most, probably one of the only times I've cried in my life is when Arith.
Now granted, I don't play video games as much as I wish I did anymore, so it probably doesn't hold too much value. But when I say seeing Final Fantasy VII Remake finally being announced after years of speculation was one of the hypest moments of my life, I ain't joking. So now 5 years after its initial announcement, it's been out for a few months now, and I loved it so much that I spent way too much money on it, got the platinum, and decided to play it just one too many times. And while I loved everything about the game, well, mostly everything, the thing that really stands out to me the most is the characters and how they're written. So today, instead of being the millionth person to talk about the ending and the Arbiters of Fate and the implication of what all that means for the rest of the series, I thought it would be fun to talk about how this game writes its characters. I'm going to be talking about spoilers from the remake, of course, but eventually I'm going to be heading into spoilers from the original game and the events that take place after Midgar, but I'll let you know when all that happens. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it.
I'm gonna be a soldier. The best of the best, like Sephiroth.
So at the beginning of the game, we're introduced to Cloud as Avalanche, a terrorist group hires him in their quest to bomb one of Shinra's Mako reactors. You know, because it's sucking the life out of the planet or whatever. And Cloud being an ex-soldier makes him the perfect man for the job. But we soon find out Cloud is as apathetic as anyone can be, and doesn't care about Avalanche's calls whatsoever. He doesn't care about the planet, or Shinra, the people he's working with, or pretty much anything else. And this is pretty much his attitude for a good while. He's kinda selfish and only really cares about himself and
the money.
He comes off as being cool, although sometimes he tries a little too hard.
Like 20-something?
First. Huh? Soldier first class. Doesn't go into the 20s.
The hell you talking about? I mean your age, not your goddamn rank.
In a nutshell, he's really just socially awkward, terrible with girls, and cheap as fuck.
That's it?
In other words, he's me. But of course, he has to change if he wants to become the hero that we imagine him to be. And it's not really until he remembers the promise he made to Tifa that we see a little bit more of a shift in his personality. But even then, he still very much has that hard edge and just his overall cold exterior. I'd argue that it's not until he meets Arith, again, that he really begins to change. Arith is just able to see through Cloud's BS, so she messes with him. Like, a lot. Like I said, Cloud tries a little too hard to be cool. And with Arith, he tries extra hard to be cool.
So, Cloud, you don't know the slums that well, do you?
Compared to you? No. Training grounds, barracks, battlefields. That's the world I know.
You sound proud of that.
But when he sees how Arith is and realizes that doesn't work with her, we go from,
You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
to,
Learn to talk to her.
Did the flowers say anything?
Good work today, guys?
So by the time he meets up with Avalanche again, I feel like he looks at his teammates in a new light. At the Sector 7 pillar, he really starts to feel for his comrades and starts to understand what's at stake. I think one of Cloud's defining traits is that he just wants to be accepted, which pretty much explains why he tries way too hard to be cool at times. He wants to be respected and seen as strong. Writer Nojima has stated that he has the mind of a 16-year-old because of what's happened in his life. So when he tries to comfort Tifa after the plate falls, he ends up just emulating Barrett, but ends up hurting her. Little stuff like this really makes me appreciate Cloud as a character. I think people who never played Final Fantasy VII, who just know of Cloud, just think of him as an edgelord or whatever. But he's not even close. Even if he kinda wants to be.
Y'all gotta look at the bigger picture here. Nothing worth fighting for was ever won without sacrifice. Though you may not be crying out, I know you're in pain, just like the planet. But it's okay, cause I'm here for you, to help take the load off your shoulders.
Barrett is another great character, and they really did a great job at making him shine in the remake. He's the leader of his faction of Avalanche. He's a little similar to Cloud in the sense that he comes off as a hard ass, but on the inside he's soft as hell. At the beginning of the game he makes it seem like he doesn't care about Cloud, but he slips up at times.
You had me worried for a minute. What the hell you been up to, huh?
He can be very loud and obnoxious, especially when he's talking about the planet and how Shinra is hurting the planet. He very much wears his heart on his sleeve. In that way, it's a nice contrast to Cloud because you can clearly see his passion for the things he cares about, compared to Cloud who doesn't care about much. I'd say he has a chip on his shoulder, but I guess it's more like a gun on his arm. We see how much he cares about his fellow Avalanche members, and I think he's like the glue that keeps the whole group together. His real weakness though is his daughter Marlene. He's willing to do anything to protect her, which is partially why he's so hell-bent on saving the planet. You know, so she actually has a future to live in. Seeing Barrett after the plate falls breaks my heart every time I see it too. Seeing him think that everyone he loves is now dead and how he reacts to it just kills me inside. And John Eric Bentley's performance here is amazing.
Marlene! 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 Biggs! Wedge! Jesse! God damn it! God damn you! God damn you all! Marlene! Marlene!
Would kill for a shower.
Moving on to Tifa, I think I'd describe her as the emotional backbone of Avalanche. She's very empathetic while at the same time being pretty shy. One of the ways Remake expands upon her character from the original is that before she was always kind of insecure, a little unsure of herself. But they make her so much so here that she even second guesses the bombings and wonders if Avalanche is even going about their cause the right way. Yet at the same time, she agrees with their cause and wants to help out. In other words,
I feel trapped.
she's like almost always worrying about something, whether it's about something going wrong or if too many people get hurt. She's just very emotional and it's hard for her to keep it together at times. Which is interesting because she's obviously badass as hell. She can kick ass, she's hot as I don't know what, and she even has abs now. But her interior is definitely not as strong. So she continues to help Avalanche but keeps saving as many people as she can as a top priority. She's a character that's dealt with a lot of loss. I guess you could say that about the rest of the cast, but I feel like you can really see how much it affects her throughout the game the most. And at this moment, we see the sadness start to turn into anger.
Gotta look forward, not back.
Last but not least for our protagonist, we have Arith, the local florist of the slums of Midgar. She's described as really values being alive. I think the way she carries herself though makes this pretty evident. She's the absolute cutest thing you'll ever see because of how happy, witty, and bubbly she is throughout the whole game no matter the situation. But I think some people who might just know of Arith without playing the games or whatever think that that's all there is to her. But she's also extremely sassy and has a lot of attitude.
You worry too much. I'm not some princess who needs to be coddled. Shit.
The game does a great job at making all these characters feel like real people. I loved walking through the slums with her for the first time because it made her feel like a real person, with real relationships, real problems, and she feels like an important part of her community. I think as a heroine, she's like the exact opposite of Tifa. Arith kind of just goes with the flow, and a lot more, outgoing. Which I feel like is interesting to note because I feel like if you look at Tifa and how she looks and what she wears, you think she acts a little bit more like Arith, and vice versa. She's different though because I feel like she doesn't really change throughout the whole game. She knows who she is, she knows what she wants, and that doesn't really change by the end of the game. I think here is where we're gonna get more into spoilers from the original game. So if not into that, I click off in 3, 2, 1.
7 seconds till the end. Time enough for you, perhaps. But what will you do with it? Let's see.
One of my favorite YouTubers, Michael from Lessons from the Screenplay, once said,
"In a good story, the characters aren't selected at random. They each add something to the story and demonstrate an aspect of the theme."
Unfortunately, the theme of this installment of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is destiny and defying destiny, which I personally think is just a fancy way of saying deciding your own future, but I digress. With this though, we can talk about our antagonist Sephiroth, our favorite silver-haired villain with mommy issues. His whole thing is that he wants to save the planet, or he says that at least, but really, he just wants to become a god. Of course, throughout the story he talks about defying fate, which anyone can surmise it's because he wants to avoid his demise from the original game. So Cloud and the gang are kind of put into a pickle. They're shown visions of Arith dying and the meteor landing, so obviously they don't want that to happen, right? But I think it's also fair to say that Arith doesn't want to defy fate. Throughout the game it's pretty evident she knows more than she leads on. So I think she knows what needs to happen in order to save the planet going forward. She even goes as far to tell Cloud he can't fall in love with her and that everyone dies eventually, alluding to her own fate from the original game. Before the party crosses over to the other side at the end of the game, she's hesitant, stating that,
I know that together we can do this. But if we do, we'll be changing more than fate itself. If we succeed, if we win, we'll be changing ourselves.
But even looking at the original game, I think in a way you can see how our characters feel about fate and how they deal with it. Even if fate isn't as literal as it is in this game. Breaking it down, we have Cloud. In a way he's kind of defied destiny mentally. He didn't make Soldier, it wasn't in the cards for him to reach his dreams, but in a way he's kind of created a whole persona or illusion that's allowed him to at least think he followed his dreams and allows everyone else to think so too. He's able to live out the life he wanted and kind of inherently has the respect he aspires to have. Barrett references that he's defied fate before, and I guess he's even done it twice now, so he's pretty much ready to do it again. Tifa's interesting because in the original she plays a large part in Cloud's illusion, as she knows something's up with him but never confronts him about it until way down the line. But as for herself, she even says she's never challenged destiny before, so this is kind of new ground for her. For Arith, her not changing much throughout the game is an interesting parallel to how she's hesitant and scared of what the future will hold. She even says she's never left the Suns because it would be too much. It sounds a lot like
Freedom. Boundless, terrifying freedom.
So what does this all mean? I don't know. I guess we'll find out more when we get deeper into the story with the following installments and their quest of defying destiny, but for now this is where our characters are at. I personally believe that moving forward, destiny won't be the overarching theme of the next few installments, and that at least by the last entry, the series thematically will be more about the original themes of identity and life. You know, which is where these characters shine and would be a lot more compelling to talk about. But for now, I think they've definitely shown why these characters have stood the test of time, and why so many people fell in love with them over the past 23 years. And I can't wait to see what they do with them next, along with the new party members we'll be meeting. You know, unless they mess it up!